Welcome back, everyone, to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be taking a look at this tragic story that's come out of Halifax. And as with all of these stories, we try to approach these things with as much sensitivity and trying to be very careful about what we're saying. And we're not trying to be disrespectful or anything like that.
Right.
Joining me today is an expert in, looking into these types of situations.
Thanks for having me.
And trying to sort of figure out what's going on. And,
Absolutely.
And what information we have, what information we don't have. And this story's been kind of floating around out there. And I know a lot of people are kind of curious about it. And so we're going to dive into that today.
Yeah.
So basically what we have here is a young woman who was working at Walmart. And she was found deceased inside of a bakery oven.
Yeah, it's a really tragic story, and there's a lot of there's a lot we don't know yet, and I think that's important to highlight right from the start.
Right, and I think it's we always want to be careful to focus on what we do know.
Absolutely, yeah,
and not sort of speculate too much on what we don't know.
Yeah, and you see a lot of speculation, unfortunately, online in these kinds of situations, and that can be really unhelpful, both for the investigation and for the family and friends who are grieving.
Right. Yeah. And we want to be respectful of that as well.
Yep.
So what we do know is that she was 19 years old. And she had recently immigrated to Canada from India and was working at this Walmart. And her body was discovered on, it was Saturday night when they found her.
Yeah. And, one of the things that is important to consider here is the context that, a young woman new to the country trying to build a life for herself, and this happens, it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah, it really is. And it just kind of raises all sorts of questions about.
Yeah.
Workplace safety and what happened. And are there things that could have been done or what exactly even transpired? We just don't have those answers yet.
Yeah, and I think, from an investigative standpoint, there are a lot of challenges here. Determining the timeline of events is going to be crucial.
Right.
When was she last seen? Were there any witnesses? What was her state of mind? And then, of course, examining the oven itself, how did she end up inside? Was it an accident? Was there foul play involved? These are all questions that the investigators are going to have to meticulously try to answer. Right,
and that takes time. Right. I mean, these types of investigations aren't.
Absolutely.
They don't wrap up in an hour on television like we see. It's a long and complicated process.
Exactly. And, it's important for people to understand that, we may not have answers immediately, and that's okay.
Right.
It's better to be thorough and get it right than to rush to judgment.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's, in the meantime, we have to just sort of, wait and let the authorities do their job.
Absolutely.
And try to, be respectful of, the victim and her family and
the community.
And the community. Yeah, absolutely.
This impacts a lot of people.
Right.
And you can imagine the fear and anxiety this has caused among other employees at that Walmart.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, they've actually temporarily closed the store, I believe.
Right. And that's understandable. They need to give the investigators space to work. And they also need to think about the well-being of their other employees who may be traumatized by this.
Right. It's a horrible situation all around.
It really is.
And it's one of those things where it's hard to even fathom, what could have led to this.
Yeah, and I think, as we wait for more information to come out, it's important to remember the human element here, This was a young woman with her whole life ahead of her, and her family is now left to pick up the pieces. Right.
And so I think, while we're interested in the details of the case, we should also be thinking about them and offering our support in whatever way we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a really good point. It's easy to get caught up in the, the details and the sort of, whodunit aspect of it.
Right.
But at the end of the day, this is a real person and real people are affected by this. And so, yeah, our thoughts go out to the family and to the community. And, hopefully we'll have some more answers soon. But in the meantime, we just have to be patient and
let the process unfold.
Let the process unfold. Exactly. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk with us about this today. I think it's
of course,
it's important to have these conversations and to, try to, learn from these situations and hopefully prevent things like this from happening in the future.
And, I think this is also a reminder for all of us to be vigilant about workplace safety.
to speak up if we see something that's not right, and to make sure that we're all doing our part to create a safe and healthy work environment.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. Well, thanks again for joining us, and thank you to everyone listening for joining us on this deep dive.
Thank you for listening to Justice with the Souls.